In Lagos, an IT lawyer, Jed Oyenyeye, joins us for more on this. Jed, it's nice to have you around. So, yeah, what's your take on the minister's claim that bandits use a special kind of technology to make calls and evade surveillance?
All right, thank you for having me, and good evening. So the first thing I would say is that the claim is partly accurate but poorly framed. Now, why is it partly accurate and poorly framed? There's no public evidence that says to us that bandits are using some exotic or proprietary technology that defeats surveillance. Rather, what we have is that the bandits are exploiting weaknesses in our telecom system and our surveillance infrastructure, especially in the rural and the forested areas that we have in the northeast. You understand? So, in simple terms, what we would say is that it's not like probably they have advanced gadgets, but it's really more about our failures as probably in the military or even in infrastructure that makes it difficult to do proper triangulation, signal intelligence, and lawful interception. So it's more on us rather than because of their own expertise, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, so it's quite nice that you had to put some sort of clarification to this particular discourse, because one would think about the kind of special technology that these miscreants or these criminals use that, according to the government, can't be traced. And one would think that why can't their signals be traced? Why can't their equipment be traced to the manufacturers, to the suppliers, to the logistics and everything, so that these signals can be tracked, or maybe a bug planted in these systems to have them apprehended? It's more or less like the government is saying, oh, this is more than a rocket science.
Okay. Yeah, so as I said earlier on, I feel it's more of a problem with the framing of the issue. And, with due respect to the Honorable Minister, there's a lot of misframing in that statement, because at the moment, there is no credible evidence of unique technology that cannot be traced, intercepted, or disrupted at scale. In fact, bandits, most times from the evidence we have, they rely on ordinary GSM phones that we make use of. They rely on SIM swaps. Some of them have many SIMs, so they make it difficult to triangulate. And of course, short calls rather than extended calls. Then occasionally they use internet-based messaging apps. Sometimes you see videos of these bandits. Facebook, you see videos of these bandits. Some of them, you see them in TikTok Live. So it's just normal day-to-day technologies that we make use of, that they also make use of. Well, to the best of my knowledge, as I said earlier on, because I don't think we have gotten any evidence where the military have come and said, yeah, we realize that these bandits are making use of this, and this. No, they're not saying anything like that. You understand? So I do not feel it's because of their expertise or because they are making use of some gadgets that we can't access. Rather, it's because of the failure in the infrastructure. And this is what we see, that you see, if you allow failure in infrastructure, one day the failure in infrastructure will come to haunt you. And I think we're already entering into those days where, because of our lack of awareness, or rather our sluggishness, you understand, into bringing all these areas is now the issue that we're having. Yeah.
Okay, so talking about a lack of optimized infrastructure. Now, if the government upgrades Nigeria's satellites in space, would that significantly improve security monitoring, or is there still a need for maybe deeper investments also in the telecom infrastructure?
Yeah, so satellite upgrades would surely help, but you see, they are not a silver bullet, as I always say. Satellites will help us improve coverage in remote areas, backup communications, and intelligence imaging, and signal relay. You understand? All these things are concepts that we use for tracking. But the issue is counterinsurgency depends more on ground telecom infrastructure, dense cell towers, and lawful interception points, data fusion centers. I can name a lot of things that have to do with terrestrial infrastructure. So no matter how much satellite infrastructure we have and how much investment we push into satellite infrastructure, there is still a need to invest heavily in terrestrial infrastructure. That's cell towers. And I like the fact that the Honorable Minister deliberately mentioned that the government is trying to push for more adoption of satellite infrastructure. for terrestrial infrastructure. And he also cited an example, if I may, that in China there are over 40 million cell towers, but in Nigeria we have just about 40,000 cell towers. So you understand that this shows the gap between China and Nigeria in terms of monitoring and what have you. So that's what I think about satellite.
Okay, so at this point, even if the bandits are using, some sort of high-end technology for communication and operations, would you also look at or explore areas of maybe collaboration with the US, so to speak, or some other foreign partners to give us the kind of improved equipment that we need to track and deal with insurgency in the country?
Okay, so I will talk about it on a small scale and then the large scale. On the small scale, we're talking about investments in our telecoms infrastructure. I think the US can't help us to invest in our own telecoms infrastructure, you understand? So we are the ones who would do that. But, on the larger scale, if the US is giving us their tools, the surveillance tools, the monitoring tools, it would really, really help us. But one of the things I'll still go back to is the fact that we need dense rural telecom rollouts, like really, really serious rollouts. You understand? 40,000 is too small. 40,000 cell towers are too few cell towers, especially for a country that's experiencing its insurgency. Of course, we also need human intelligence, and I think that's one of the areas where it's lacking. Because you see, the humans that live around those areas are probably even more sentimental towards the bandits rather than the government, you understand? Because I wouldn't like to make a scene of it, but the truth is that a lot of these people feel like the government has abandoned them for a long time. So you see, no matter how good tech is, they cannot replace human intelligence. And of course, there has to be targeted disruptions, because aside from surveillance in terms of communication, there's financial surveillance, there's logistical surveillance, there's supply chain surveillance. And all these things, it looks like we are just trying to rely on the areas where we don't have power and then make an excuse and say, it's because we don't have this, that's why this is happening. No, they are.
All right, Jed Oyenyeye, an IT lawyer, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.